you again, do you have any clarity on what's happening next year about your job status?
I haven't been told anything different.
Do you want to get that cleared up ASAP, or do you?
It's only coming from the outside. It's not inside the building. So to me, there's nothing to clean up until I hear it from inside the building.
AP, when you look at Aiden and his performance, I'm curious if this is it's my observation, I'd like you to know, tell me if it's fair or not. You haven't seen enough, in my opinion, to determine whether he's a QB1 or not, but he certainly deserves to be in the competition. Would you agree with that? And do you need to go forward and keep looking till you know you have the guy?
Well, I think with Aiden, I think what you're seeing is somebody that's finally played 17 games, right? That was his 17th game as a starter. I think you got to look at just the whole platform of it. Not one time has he went in as a day one starter, right? He's been either thrown in the game or coaching change or, bench quarterback. So what does that look like maybe when he has a whole offseason as the guy? So I think a lot of guys have to go into that evaluation. But I think what you see with Aiden, like we saw last night, some big-time throws, some throws we want to take back and not do. And, obviously he's still working on mobility. He got out the pocket again there. So there's work there for a young player that's going in year 3.
Do you see making changes on your staff?
No, not as today.
Kind of big picture, not just roster, coaching staff, but what do you think you guys need to do moving forward to help turn things around?
Got to get better players. Got to coach better. Got to do a lot of things better when you only win 4 games.
For yourself, individually, I know you obviously focus on the entire team, but for yourself personally as a head coach, where do you think you need to improve moving forward?
Everything that a head coach needs to improve in.
How important is it to re-sign Robert Spillane to this team?
And Robert's huge. I think he's earned, we got every penny out of him for what we signed him for 2 years ago. And he's done an outstanding job. Hell, had a hell of a game last night all over the field, making tackles, top 5 in the league in tackles. But more importantly, a leader, a real staple of what our defense is. Done a great job from a physicality standpoint, leadership standpoint, vocally as well. To me, like we always talk about linebacker play in this room at times. It's fun watching him play linebacker because he gives it, balls to the wall, all out. I would love to see him be a Raider.
A lot of the players in the locker room showed their support for you last night and said that during that 10-game losing streak, you kept them together. How in particular did you do that?
Just being myself like I am every day. I never change, win, lose, or draw. I'm AP regardless of if I'm standing in front of you or I'm outside this building. And that's how I treat those men. I treat them like men. They're pro football players. They understand that. We talk and we have honest conversations. It doesn't just happen when we win. We don't just sit there and pat each other on the back. When we lose, we're straightforward. So it was challenging, though. When you lose 10 straight, how do you keep going in front of your team and motivate them? But to their credit, and I keep talking about it, learn how to be a pro, right? Especially with a young team. And that's what we constantly talked about. I thought they did a good job just buying into what the message or the mindset was of each and every week. And regardless, and I said in this room before, like win, lose, or draw, those guys competed. They gave effort. There's improvement there. You've seen some young players really step up. And that's what I think, this last month really was for us. Obviously, we won 2 games in a row and lost last night. But I thought you saw some things that you could say, man, they were working on it. You can see the technique. You see the fundamentals. You can see the scheme. You can see the players improving. And that's what I think is a plus and a positive to our team.
To that point, whether personally or professionally, where do you feel like you have grown the most over the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to it, just patience, What I need to do a better job of, and as I said a question earlier, I need to go with my gut. I did that a lot. I was better at that last year. This year I didn't do what I wanted to do as much as I wanted to do it.
I think there was a reason behind that?
No, just lessons learned.
Coach, going back to training camp, one of the important things that you mentioned was brotherhood, was being able to play for each other and that team leadership. How much of it do you think went into effect this season? And even just last night, fighting till the last second?
I think it was critical because, again, the way the season went, the expectations that we have for ourselves, to go through that and never see this team point fingers at one another. There was never no bickering. There was no in-house issues or fires or anything that was detrimental to the team. Even with movement with the staff or players, nobody flinched. There was no blinking. We just kept moving on, next man up mentality. And they really embraced that throughout the entire season. I'm really proud of how we finished even last night. Obviously, when the game started to get out of hand, those guys still competing, even on offense and trying to, go for it onside. It wasn't like kick the ball off and let them, no, let's keep fighting until the clock hits 0. So they really took a lot of pride. You can see the emotions and the hurt, after that loss last night. That was sad to see from our guys. But like I told them, one loss, one season that's not who we are. And that's not going to design us.
When you talk about, going with your gut, don't want to put any words in your mouth, but is there things that you would have done differently with the quarterback situation coming out of training camp?
Yep. Yes.
And I guess, why did you go with Gardner? And it sounds like you probably would have rather gone with.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. It's just I made that decision, and obviously, we made the decision to move on from Gardner after week 5, I believe, and then things just kind of went left and right after that.
Coach, when you look at the rookie class, not even just the guys you drafted, but also the guys like Jonah and Thomas that you picked up, can you just talk about how they played, and does that make you encouraged on player development?
No, really huge. I think, again, I'm going to go back to a credit to our staff doing a really good job of just constantly, just not always worrying about the Max Crosby's of the world and the Christians and Roberts of those guys that kind of your bottom feeders, that's up and coming in your program, your organization. And when you get players from the outside, like Jonah from Indy and Zach from Cincinnati, there's a lot that goes into it, right? This is not just scheme, it's technique, it's culture, it's the foundations, the things that we're working on in training camp and in OTAs and mini camp. And what I'm really proud of is what is built really for our team is depth. Get all these guys that were on this IR, which is 13, 14 guys on IR, get them back, and now you got some depth, with some young players that's played over 500 plus snaps.
And I started my 6th year today covering this team, and in those 6 years, the only real consistency has been inconsistency. You mentioned not wanting to make staff changes. How important is it to you, AP, moving forward to keep your staff?
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, we're going to look at it. We're going to talk. I mean, obviously, it's going to start with me whenever I talk with Telesco and Mark when we have our conversations. But then it goes into the coordinators and our position coaches, right? Obviously, there's a lot of things that we want to do better, wish we could done better, called better. All those things of nature. Then you got to ask yourself, okay, where's the growth at, right? And how do we grow and with who we're growing with? And I think at that time you got to make decisions. But you see it every year. There's going to be some turnover, right? You want consistency, but you got to do what's best for the team. And what does best for us is certain position groups where we need to improve.
Last year, during the draft process, you were wired in on the quarterbacks there, a couple in particular, that caught your eye. Do you expect that to be the case this year? And what do you have any kind of a sense on this year's quarterback?
Yeah, just like last year's class, because where I came from recently in my last job, still familiar with these quarterbacks. I got a good pulse and beat on a few of these guys, their personalities and who they are, and they can't really fool me in the interviews. Obviously, we'll go through evaluation with them on the grass, but I hope to have a bigger and more impact in the quarterback room.
A few weeks ago, you mentioned you wanted to get Kobe those 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Got it yesterday. What does that mean, and how does that speak of him as a player and even his teammates having his back?
Yeah, really from one undrafted player myself to another, to watch him get that and really surpass everything he's talked about for himself, right? Coming in the league undrafted, and all you see is just the arrow pointing up and improving. Then you come here and you got some big personalities and some big-time players here at your position, and then to see him get that opportunity and make the most out of it. What I was really excited about is when you saw it happen, and I kind of knew something was going on when all our guys started hugging on him. EB came off the sideline. A lot of guys patted him on the back. We kind of knew what we needed to do for Jacoby, but Jacoby did it. Jacoby played his ass off last night. I've been saying this from the jump. The ultimate team player. Like, it's hard to get a receiver that want to go in there and crack a D in or go get a linebacker, go get a safety, then go put up 1,000. That doesn't really happen. That's not very common.
You mentioned Spillane. There's a lot of defensive guys who will be free agents this offseason. How important for you is to get those guys back next year?
Yeah, I think it'd be critical once me and Telesco get together, just grow through that, right? Really look at it. It's got to make dollars and cents for everybody, not just for the Raiders, but for the players as well. Understand the business side of that. But these gentlemen, I thought, all year have played their tails off, some deserving of a contract, and others, probably have to move on from.
Coach,
Back to the coordinators and stuff, you changed your OC in the middle of the season. What did you like about the job that Team Turner did, both Scott and Norv?
Yeah, really, I thought it just, when you watched us play, it just looked right? I just go from the run game alone, and we still have a lot more improvement there. We didn't end the season where we wanted to run the football. Obviously, everybody knows that, what we want to do and being physical. But I thought you just saw more chemistry, some more continuity, the attention to details, the execution from there. I thought our pass protection, even again last night against a very good team with some DNs and some outside backers that can rush, did a good job protecting the quarterback. And like we always talked about with the Raiders, you want to see shots down the field. And that happened more and more often.
In the same vein, Patrick Graham's been here ever since you have been. What have you liked most about working with him? What have you learned from him?
Yeah, Patrick's been great. Obviously, when he got the job, one of the first guys he called, and we jumped on board and worked together. Patrick's a very sharp, obviously intellectual individual. Going to be a head coach in this league. He's been a really good coordinator for us for 3 years, and we'll see what happens this offseason.
Coach, there's obviously a lot of noise from the fan base, and in a season like this, a lot of negative, but there's also a lot of positive, support from Raider Nation, both nationally and internationally. What is your message to them?
I appreciate the support, win, lose, or draw. You know, when you take this job and when you're in front of this room, in front of the building, in front of the organization, the face of the organization, you take the good with the bad, right? And when we win, everybody's AP. When you lose, get rid of his ass. I get it. That's the nature of the beast. It was no different when I played, right? When you play well, they keep you and they give you more money. And you don't, you go to another team. So that's a good part about being a former player. You get the nature of the business. But Raider Nation's been great. I'll say this. For the 9 road games we had, they showed up, every one of them. And they were loud, they were beating. The black hole, we always a kick to it. No different than last night. Thought they were outstanding. For us on some third downs and down there in the red zone. Had a goal line stop because of the noise. Had them call a timeout. So Raider Nation's been great. It's been great to me. I appreciate the support. Good, bad, and ugly. I get it. And I take it, and I don't blink or flinch. It is what it is. We got to win more games, and that's what everybody expects, myself included.
Coach, is there any one reflection that you have on this season that?
I'm sorry, can you start again?
Is there any kind of reflection or a takeaway, a moment that you have from this season that you hope to carry into next season for this team?
It's a good question. To be honest, I think we got to really look at, just how we handle our business in training camp and that transition. When I look at how and what we did with Costa Mesa, I thought it was a very good experience for our team. But just see when we got back, we just got hit with injuries. So, I really look back at that. We talked to our medical staff and training staff of what we can do a better job of that. Now, a lot of these injuries were contact football injuries, and just the nature of the beast, it just happens. But as I look back, just when you're moving guys around from one place to the other, what's the impact on your team? I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's just something that on top of my head that I know I've been thinking about.
Speaking of injuries, how big would it be to get Malcolm Kuntz back? He didn't get to play at all this year.
If there's one injury that really frustrated and hurt me this year was Malcolm, because he had a hell of a training camp, really a hell of offseason. Then we go in training camp, and, he's looking really, really good. And I know it's against our offense, and, we got in a couple games in preseason, but the bend, the power, the confidence was back. He had that swag to him. And when he went down that Thursday, it hurt our team. You felt it. You felt the emotional drop within the building. And it was a sad moment, but to Malcolm's credit, and seeing him in the building every day working out and starting to get his little juices back to him, man, it'd be good to have him back because, he's just on the brink of being a really good football player. And it'd be good to see him come back as a Raider and do what he needs to do for us to win.
Got time for 2 more. Yes, go ahead, Lon.
Any 4-13 season for the Raiders is disappointing, but do you believe this franchise, looking back in a couple of years, will be able to see 22 or 27 first and second year guys playing, and that will be something positive that does come out of a disappointment?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think, just looking at stats, us and the Rams were one of the younger team, playing a lot of young guys late in the month, late this season. What I think is going to happen with this season is there's going to be a lot. There's a lot that I'm going to take from Telesco and Mark and our players. And we're going to look back and say, okay, why, right? And we're going to figure out that why over the next couple of months. Then we get back in this bad boy, which I expect our guys to do and be just like they were last year, in here in February, in here in March, when we started an off-season program, to have more of a chip, right? Because there was some opportunities that we had where we're on the goal line, 6 inches from the goal line, or 4 yards there. We got an opportunity on third down or fourth down to make a stop, to have this narrative of losing go away. And again, I've said it before, when enough is enough and we make up our minds we're going to do it right and can be consistently doing it right, and you said that word earlier, consistency, we'll be okay.
Coach, on a personal level, how much have you enjoyed, kind of having your son as well on this coaching staff, and how much in his personal development and his professional development do you think this experience has helped him?
No, really cool, really cool. Get it? Kind of a homer deal, right? But hell no, it ain't a homer deal. When the guy's going to one day be a coordinator and a coach in this league, you got to start from the ground up, put him with the offensive line. He gets the shit beat out of him every day by Jackson Powers and Colton Miller and those guys. See him go on defense next year will be really exciting. But it's always good when for myself, when I played, I didn't spend a lot of time with my son, right? Because I was traveling and working, trying to have a good living for him. And now to be with him and watch him be a father, be around him, watch him learn, go through the ups and downs of coaching. Hell, tired as hell. It's like a rookie season for him. He might hit the rookie wall in coaching. But to understand and see that process and see how driven he is, that's like the second find. To see how driven he is really cool. Cool. Hey, appreciate you guys, man. Good luck. Love you guys.